Welcome to our coverage of NAB 2012.
It's Tuesday morning here in Las Vegas, guys. We're hanging out at the Zacuto booth. I've got about 6 ounces of coffee and on the processes of beginning to wake up here.
It takes a while.
Yeah, it does take a while.
Especially after the first day. It kills you. It's
Yeah.
a busy show.
What have you been doing around the show floor so far?
We're speaking at Steadicam and the Canon booth, and then we have a lot of people that we're hoping to meet and just catching up with old friends, and just running into you guys and showing you what's up.
What's your favorite part about NAB as a show? I mean, the whole experience.
NAB is a little daunting to me. There's so many people, there's so many products, and you can get so carried away with gear sometimes that I think it kind of make your head spin. So I think I just love reconnecting with people and being able to chat about, find out what they're up to, and even just hearing about the projects that you're working on. That's the most exciting to me, is seeing what people are actually doing and the stories they're telling, and the gear it's always going to be there.
It's always going to be there, and how it helps facilitate it, right? I know we're on the same page as terms of that. Well, what have you seen, though, in terms of gear that's interested you, if anything at all?
Not going to have anything good for you there.
Yeah. All right.
I haven't seen anything. I've been going from booth to booth speaking and that kind of thing. So, but we have some time scheduled. We're actually going to make sure that we get a whole day this year just to walk the floor. Never had that.
Well, you guys have been generating a lot of buzz lately with some of your projects you've had going on.
I hope so. We have a 36-city workshop tour coming up near the end of the year, and related to that is our first ever app, Smap. And that is going to be a filmmaking tool tied in with tutorials and gear reviews. And we're very excited about that. It's been over a year.
Well, you've been working on it for a year?
Yeah, we started thinking about this years ago. Some of the ideas were in our workshops definitely years ago, tools we were finding. And really, it's come from, you get similar questions from people doing workshops across the world and all these things. And you find the things that people really struggle with. And there's only so much you can do by, giving them ideas, and even by showing them what we can do. The best way to learn is enabling you to do it yourself. And so Smap is really built around that idea that it's going to help you do these techniques and ideas yourself, but also help you really understand what you're doing so you can apply it to your type of filmmaking, your vision.
Our coverage of NAB 2012 is brought to you by Kessler, innovative tools for filmmakers. Lettuce Direct. It's better with lettuce. LettuceDirect.com. Next Lights. Get lit.
Okay, so what's that's kind of philosophy behind it, but what's it look like?
What the hell does it do?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, good question. So it's got 3 different parts. So we have, now this is a beta version, and there's only so many things I can show you right now because it pulls from the server, we're on the show floor, and internet's slow. But right here, tutorials is a big part of it, and so you can see we have basically a whole bunch of different categories of tutorials. We've produced over 50 so far.
Now these are text or video? Or?
These are video tutorials that will be available as in-app purchases, or they'll be free in the app, and they'll be broken down by different categories. So you would find things like how to create a short form piece, how to create a 3 to 5 minute piece, how to create.
Now you got me. Like how do you put how to create it? That seems like a broad, very subjective piece. So how does that come across in a tutorial? There's not like a cookbook for it.
Well, I think part of the challenge of education is taking abstract concepts and trying to give some sort of workflow to it. And of course, you have to leave that open to interpretation so that you can take your story and not make our story.
So how did you guys do that? What was your approach to that? Because that seems like a complex thing.
A lot of this stuff comes from reflection. So it comes from looking at a whole bunch of our short form pieces, things that have been the most successful or the most emotionally compelling.
Trying to work backwards.
And trying to build that archetype out of them. And so, but really, you can look at any piece and say, it's got to have a strong opening. It's got to have a strong ending. What is your crescendo? What is your main theme? There are central ideas that we can build off that I think many filmmakers don't really stop and think about. And so we work off that kind of idea that here's some core things you need to work on. And as simple as an A to Z kind of idea, there's still a lot of work you have to do. It's not going to tell the story for you, but it's going to give you a lot more of a foundation. But that would be more of the philosophy, a little bit more of the subjective content. Then we've got really advanced things like how to hide a lav mic on people. How many guys don't know how to effectively hide a lav underneath clothing and different types of body types. So we'll show you, using undercovers, using different tools, how to actually put it underneath, how to get great audio, how to use a boom placement, stuff like that, which, on the technical side, people can get hung up on, and it can be a huge help to watch a 3-minute tutorial for $1.99, and now I know how to use my boom better.
So beyond the tutorial part of the app, what other components does it have?
So another big thing is the gear bag. And I mean, a lot of people have questions about gear. I mean, that's why you guys are here, right? You're going and you're getting the information they need. What we're trying to do is take that beyond the subjective idea of just like, here's what we think of a piece of gear, which does have some value, but you can find that everywhere on the internet from tons of different people. We want to then break that down and go further and say, who does this work for? Is it good in event production? Is it good in commercial? Is it good for a wedding, documentary? How practical is it? We'll tell you about the features. Does it have a lot of features? How much experience does it take? And what kind of priority do we think it is? So you look at something like a Manfrotto monopod, and I would say in an event setting, that's very high priority, right? Or you can look at something like a Scarlett in an event setting, I'd say that's very low priority. And so what we're trying to do is paint a much broader picture for people when you're looking at gear. It's not just about like how cool it is or the resolution or it does this or that, but does it actually work for you right now where you're at?
So are you attempting to basically quantify the value of the product in terms of the way that it fits into the project, or?
We're trying to quantify gear based on different types of people and where they might be at.
People or parameters for projects?
I would say parameters for projects, but it would be more in a commercial documentary event type setting. Okay. And I think what's really unique about us is that we do produce commercials, we do event work, and we do weddings.
Like, you've got the gamut covered, so yeah.
So it's neat. I mean, we've shot a produced Apple commercial with an Epic, and we've shot a wedding with an Epic. You know what I mean? And we've shot a feature-length documentary with it. So I think that we have that experience to speak to. Is this a good idea? If it is a good idea, what should you be expecting? What kind of challenges are you going to run into? And what other things should you be considering first? Which is so important. I think it's great to be able to go into a tool, look at, say, a slider, and then have some other options to consider. Look at that one, and for some people, a simple, really easy option is better. For others, a more complicated, where I can add time-lapse functions, is the right solution. So by trying to paint that bigger picture, you as the user can say, here's where I'm at, and this works for me, as opposed to the trap that a lot of us fall in and buy tons of gear and half of it doesn't work.
Right. Or stays on the shelf. And
yeah, exactly.
Our coverage of NAB 2012 is brought to you by Cinnabate, tools for filmmakers and photographers. Delaluz, apparel for filmmakers. Zeiss, we make it visible.
In terms of the interface, I mean, the tutorials in the gear bag are fairly straightforward. They're menu-based. You go through and you find the tutorial you want or the gear you want, and you'll find the information on it. What's really exciting about the app for us, some of the biggest features are what we call the interact section, which is where it's going to actually work with you filmmaking tools. And so here I have the lens selector. And the idea with this is that it's meant to help you choose an effective focal length for your shot. So basically we have 4 different fields that you would fill out and you would change on the fly, and it's going to then suggest 1, a focal length, and 2, how close or far you should be. So to start off, you would tell Smap about your environment, so how unpredictable versus predictable it is, right? So right now, I would say that what Matt's shooting is predictable. So we would just slide the slider towards predictable. And then, does he want to minimize or maximize? I would hope that he doesn't really want to make us look too large or too small, so I'm going to leave that in the middle, right? He probably doesn't really have an intent of making us look small or large. Comedic or dramatic, right? You guys go more on the drama side. So let me pull that one that way. And then, are we going more for a detail or are we going more for context? Here, I mean, he's showing the interface, so let's assume that he's going a little bit more for detail. So there, if he was using a DSLR, full frame sensor, we would suggest either a 135 or a 200 and going medium to far away, right? So as you change what you want in your environment, the focal lengths are going to change, which is one, I think that's very helpful for a lot of people who really have a struggle with picking the right lens and getting themselves into trouble by having the wrong lens, the wrong situation. But what is better than that, what is bigger than that, is that through using this, our hope is that you'll actually learn your lenses better.
Let's go to the interface because I have a great story about that.
Yeah.
I'll soon. But keep going through. I don't want to cut off this
Okay.
part.
So the biggest thing is that we really want this to be able to help filmmakers get a sense and really feel the different personalities that lenses have, so that you use Smap for the beginning, but then you can just feel it yourself, right? And so as you consistently put in things like, I want my image to be more dramatic, and I want to isolate things, you start feeling that the lenses are getting longer and longer that Smap is suggesting. To the point that next time you get out there and you're like, I want this to feel dramatic, you can just go and choose that lens yourself.
Right,
and you don't have to worry about it.
It's training wheels for filmmakers almost. Like you start to learn the basic parameters, and then as you progress through that, you start to realize, okay, this is this. You start to make those connections yourself, and then be able to make those informed decisions.
Definitely, and lens choice is such a lost art, I think, when it comes to DSLRs. So many people are coming into it without any experience, or they're coming into it from like a broadcast world where they're using one big zoom lens, and let's be honest, it's easier to zoom than it is to switch a lens. And so I'll stop hitting the microphone. Okay. I'm like, hey, just pulling it away. So the challenge then is, how do we provide tools for people so that they can be effective in the field? They can actually, use it in a time that works, and they can choose lenses that are going to help them tell their stories. And Smap is really built around that entire idea, helping you tell your story, helping you understand filmmaking. We're not just going to show you, how to light an interview, because you can find that all over the place, right? But how do you light an interview in a way that fits your story? So if I put my key light here, how does that change my story? Well, that tutorial's online, so you can actually link to that in this, right? So when we talk about a key light, though, we'll talk about how it relates to your story, not just you put your key light here, you put your fill here, that
dramatic
kind of
values, the way that it changes the context of the subject, all that.
Exactly, and I think that's huge. And we've really built Smap entirely around that idea of, we really need to give filmmakers a sense of how this stuff fits into your story, so that you can just apply this to your story, again, and not just make a well-lit interview, right? That's half the battle, but the bigger battle is say something unique, and that's what we want to help with. So the one other thing I want to show, I just dropped my phone here. Okay, so the one other feature I want to show you is what we call Get Creative, and it's another filmmaking tool. And the idea here is that we have different packs, so different types of ideas. And you can shake or you can swipe, and it'll give you creative ideas. Now this one that we're looking at now is for event shooters. And so, this one talks about, think of the other storylines that have developed, and think about how you could tie those two storylines in one shot. And so in a wedding, you could be, following the story of a bride, but you can also be following the story of parents. So it'd be like, how do I tie in the parents and the bride in one shot? And it gives you ideas of new shots and ideas you can get. You guys would be familiar with this kind of stuff, where have you established time, place, geography, and your characters within this scene? Things that an event shooter often loses and forgets about. Yeah. So the idea here is you can pick this up, you can shake it, you'll get an idea on, a new shot. So it kind of helps you if you're getting stuck. But what's more than that, and you guys were talking about this earlier, sometimes you get so busy and you kind of forget to take a second and just breathe, that like if you go to the lighting pack, it'll just give you ideas on things to just look at. Have you checked this versus this? And so you can just pull it out and check something, and it'll give you an idea to, 90% of the time we can make our lighting better, we just don't have time. Right? So it's great having a little tool. So this comes with 12 ideas from us that we use, that we share among our team, that we think are very helpful in making your story stronger. But what's really cool is that Get Creative pulls from the server of Smap. And we're going to allow users to submit ideas. Oh, there you go. So then we're actually going to, look at them and take the best ones and actually put them back in Smap. So every time you load this, it's going to be filled with user-generated content of different ideas for lighting and event shooting, interview techniques, all kinds of things. So we can build this out into a whole bunch of different ideas and let the filmmaking community share ideas on how to be better and quicker and that kind of thing, which I think is really exciting.
That's really cool. I like that a lot. Talk to me about when you expect this to be available and for download, and how do you plan to distribute it? Is this going to be a paid product, a free download? How's that going to work?
So Smap is going to be $2.99 through the iTunes store. What we do know right now is that it's approved by Apple, which means we are close to being able to launch. We have some development updates. We have a couple more features we want to get in. That's the biggest thing, is that we have a whole list of filmmaking tools, and we need to draw the line on what we're going to be okay with, getting in. So we're hoping for the end of April, but then based on our updates and based on approval for Apple, it's going to be 2 to 4 weeks kind of thing. In that time, we're posting updates on our blog every week on what's coming and what to expect out of Smap. Initially, it's for the iPhone. Within 3 months, we have it for the Android and the iPad. And what's really cool is we're redesigning for the iPad to take advantage of the extra screen space. And we have some really cool features, such as an actual lighting plot filmmaking tool that will allow you to share lighting plots, create lighting plots, things like that, it's not effective on an iTunes or on an iPhone screen, but it will be on an iPad. So we have a lot of other ideas where we're really going to build that out. And honestly, we're really excited about just getting it out and having people use it because we put a lot of things in there to let people give us feedback. And I think we're going to get a lot of great ideas.
Well, what's the web address where people can follow the project?
GetSmap.com.
Nice, like it.
Stay tuned for more coverage fresh from the floor.